Welcome to this week's Murray's Mates. This episode is part 2 of Murray's big chat with ex-Largs Thistle player Kevin Struthers. If you have not already, listen to part 1 on iTunes or on our club YouTube channel, Largs Thistle Net. Today, Kevin is talking about memories from 9 seasons at Largs. But first, a word from our host Murray Grayston.
This week's Murray's Mates is brought to you by GPD Mortgage Solutions of Greenock. Whether you're a first-time buyer or want to remortgage your home, Sean and his team will find the right deal for you. Take out a mortgage or insurance policy with GPD Mortgage Solutions and you will receive a free will. Plus, tell them you heard this advert on Murray's Mates and they will make a £50 donation to Largs Thistle. Applying for a mortgage is easy with GPD Mortgage Solutions. Find them on Facebook at www.facebook.com/GPD Mortgage Solutions or visit www.gpdmortgagesolutions.co.uk. That's www.gpdmortgagesolutions.co.uk. And that season they had their highest league finish.
That's right, aye. Highest league finished fifth. I think I'd done... highest league finish, fifth place in a Premier League. But that season was a wee bit of a write-off for me because I'm sure my first season I tore my ankle ligaments and didn't realise how long it took for ankle ligaments to heal. So my first season was a bit of a write-off, to be fair, but that's really the first kind of lengthy injury I had was my ankle ligaments. It was unfortunate. It was my first season, but obviously next season I played a bit more, and obviously it's went on for 9 years.
So the next year is one of those ones you just look at it and you really wonder how did all that happen, because you've been relegated, but at the same time you've made the Scottish Cup semi-final. What would it to be a kind of a season like that? But it's the Scottish Cup's almost a distraction, I suppose. It's a welcome distraction, but the relegation to begin with, what went wrong with your kind of highest finish?
I don't know. It's a mixture of things. Obviously, a turnover, you kind of lose a couple of players, and once I think my experience in the juniors is you've got to get off to a good start. No matter what league you're in, you've got to start strong. And if you don't, you're left chasing your tail because losing becomes a habit the same way winning does. And it's a hard habit to break. When you're doing it, obviously I've been unfortunate enough to be relegated a couple of times. And it's not anything that I'm proud of, but we've never got off to a good start the seasons we've been relegated, and that's you don't want to be left chasing your tail. See, come Christmas, if you're left clawing to try and keep yourself up, it's never good. And when you're down there, it seems as if everything goes against you. Like,
do you know what?
You'll maybe... Sorry, on you go.
I felt was a particular issue. This is not, as you're right, it was a difficult season for us.
Yep.
But by the same token, with 22 games to play,
yep.
See if you lose your first 8 games, as happened a few years later, you're in trouble.
Yep.
So it wasn't necessarily. It wasn't 22 games. It's difficult to justify. It's slightly difficult to justify that at a semi-professional level.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there must be a degree of mitigation, but obviously it was a very difficult. I remember that season; it was a very difficult season. But we did our very best in difficult circumstances.
100%.
Mentioned that was also quite a season. There was quite a lot of publicity about the club that year, as that was when the late Colin Weir, that was his year millions, which led to a lot of publicity for better or worse about the club. We don't need to go over. We don't need to go over it again. But we were quite often in the news. That's what I'll say. That's what I'll say.
But obviously, to get a Scottish Cup semi-final and to be beaten penalties was a hard one, because we didn't lose either of the games. We drew one each with shots away, and then drew nothing each at Barfields, and it went to penalties because they don't do the away goal thing. So it just was done as a draw. And penalties is a lottery, isn't it? It's just about who's confident and who's not. And unfortunately, we went out in penalties, which was a hard one to take.
One of those ones as well. I was actually speaking to one of my mates about that recently. See, the thing that doesn't come into it's the fatigue. See, if you've been playing a lot, especially at that time of season, your legs are knackered, and coming up to take a the end of the game.
I know.
You don't think you've got the energy in your legs the ball where you think you could put it at the start of the game type thing. Did you take any penalties?
It's mentally. No, I actually didn't play second leg. Second leg at Barfield, I didn't play for one reason or another. But I was disappointed. But I know what you're saying. Once it gets to penalties, it's like you've got to take a physical fatigue and then you've got a mental fatigue as well. And depending where you're hitting, like what stage in a shootout you're hitting, it might be like the guy before you and your team's missed, and there's a bit of pressure on you to score. And there's so many things that you need to take into consideration. But I think you just need to be single-minded, and this is what I'm going to do. Once it gets to my penalty, I'm going up and I'm going to do this, and nothing's going to change my mind. If a guy misses before me, or they've scored, they've missed before me, it doesn't matter. You've got to just get it clear in your head. This is what I'm doing, and that's it. That's the only way you can look at it.
And then just briefly, I know we won't go into the kind of in-depth details about it or anything like that, but the app coming in at Barfields, does that make it a better for you? Because I think the facility for that, the kind of everything they are, I think it's second to none. I think it makes such a big difference having a facility like that to train on, and when it comes to time and things like that, you're not parks to train in different places every week to try and get a park.
Mm-hmm. No, totally. I love a surface at Largs, and I remember a couple of the older guys who used to be like Stephen Connick at the time. He'd be like, my hips and my knees, and I was like, I love it. I think it's brilliant. I wasn't at the time. I was a bit younger, and I didn't feel anything off it. And it is a great surface. There's no getting away from it, and it gave me a lift going into that the season that it got done. The first season that we played on it definitely gave me a lift for going and enjoying my football. But what we also felt is other teams were coming and getting a lift because they're looking at the surface and like, this is brilliant. So the teams you're playing against, they're getting a lift because they're coming down and seeing the facilities and the surface. So I found it hard at first to kind of make it a home for us, like people coming in knowing they're going to get a hard game, because teams were coming and getting a lift for seeing a surface as well. Do you know what I mean? So we had, although it will eventually work in your favour because you'll get used to playing on it and training on it, but other teams were coming and getting a lift for it as well. So it was, but definitely for the better.
One of those ones, I mean, everyone looks forward to going away to a decent away ground, but if you look at it, I think they wants to go to Beath away or something like that. You're playing in the narrow part, down the slope or up the slope.
I know.
So it's not a huge advantage.
No,
it's just something that other teams look forward to.
They know they can get a ball in and play if that's their. Barfield's at the time when it got put in was state of the art. It was like top notch. Do you know what I mean? So it wasn't as if we were just putting down a kind of basic 3G. I'm pretty sure there was talk of like the companies that tendered to put it down, who put in put in for the contract. There was like this is guys that were laying surfaces down at like Premier League clubs, training grounds and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Who were coming up to do it up at Barfields, and it wasn't just your kind of average 3G. It was at the time that surface was state of the art, and it was, you could tell. See, when we were playing on it first, it was brilliant.
I also do believe it's aged quite. I'm reluctant to say a surface has aged less well than another surface, but there are surfaces that you play on which I will not name them, but there are surfaces that you play on and you see which it's not the fault of the club, so do not wish to name the surfaces, but haven't necessarily aged as well. Again, the very oldest surfaces have been relayed, but surfaces in the last 10, 15 years or more, thinking.
So that season, you've been relegated, you've lost a Scottish Cup semi-final. So how do you come back for that? For starters, we'll start at the Ayrshire Cup one, which you would never imagine as being the kind of least of the two good things that happened that season. The Ayrshire Cup's the smaller of them, or the more insignificant one, which you would never imagine for Largs winning a cup. But for starters, what was that like?
That was brilliant. That was honestly, see, Paul, keep me right here, Paul, but I'm sure that season we had like, obviously we got to the playoffs, right?
Yes.
So I'm sure we played Kello on the Saturday, right? Mm-hmm. Be in the quarter final of the Ayrshire Cup on a Saturday. So think about this. We're talking about fatigue money, right? We played Kello on the Saturday in an Ayrshire Cup quarter-final. We beat them 6-0. We played the semi-final against Irvine Meadow on the Monday. We played the Ayrshire Cup final on a Friday. We played the first leg of the playoff the following Monday and played the second leg on a Wednesday. So we played 6 games, right? 6 games that all meant something. A quarter-final, a semi-final, a final, and quarter, semi-final, and 2 legs in a playoff.
Yeah.
5 games, right? 5 games we played in a week and a half that all meant something. And see when you talk about character, in a team, that was unbelievable, honestly. We had guys who, everybody was wearing like ankle straps, like taping up their knee, people taking paracetamol before games, people taking cocodamol before games, like, but everybody wanted to see, because that's what I'm talking about, winning becomes a habit. See, once you start that run of winning games, everybody wants to play, nobody wants to drop out. Everybody's doing everything they can to make sure they're fit for the next game. And that week and a half it was unbelievable, honestly. Even going down, like, down to Irvine, Paul, you were there, the Irvine Meadow game, we played them down there. Honestly, we ripped them apart, and we only had 2 subs. I think, did we have 2 subs that night? And the 2 of them were goalies. Is that right, Paul?
I'll check, but see the Kello game a few days before.
Yeah.
Well, Kello were a struggling team, so
that's right. Aye.
But we bought Grant Weir, a goalkeeper, on as a sub, as a striker.
We did, you're right.
Which was more a bit of a laugh, because with 5 Grant Weir. I'm just gonna fish it all just now. I've got the stats for that season.
I'm sure that's the way it panned out. 5 games, and see on the, I'm sure we might have had 3 subs, but 2 subs were goalies.
For the Meadow game, yes, that's correct.
That's right. So we actually get 2 guys sent off as well. Murray gets sent off, and Gordon Larkin gets sent off for a last man foul. And did Stephen Connick save a penalty, Paul?
Yes.
For Richie Barr. Like, it was incredible, honestly. And Irvine Meadow was a good team at that time as well. I'm pretty sure they probably would have expected us to get down there and they would have turned us over. And then obviously we went on to beat Cumnock. In fact, something I remember for the Irvine Meadow game, right? We'd finished the game. That was on the Wednesday night. We'd finished the game, and I travelled with Willie McClure. He was Willie. I played at East End at under 11s with Willie. That's how long I've known Willie. Probably since I was about 8 or 9. So we come out at Meadow Park, and you come out under the stand, and you walk up a wee bit at the side of the pitch, and the cars are normally parked behind the goal. So I had parked my car behind the goal, and we come out, and I'm like, well, somebody's blocked me in. So I'm like, looking at the car, and I'm like, Ryan McWilliams, he'd a wee corner. I was like, Ryan McWilliams has blocked me in. So Willie's like, I'm not getting back down to get him. He says, so me and Willie are like, hurry up, Willie, you go down and get him and get me caught, we move to car. And he's like, I'm not going down, you go down. So we had a bit of a debate about who was going down. So we eventually got up to my car, and I looked in, and it was a Nike boot bag. It was lying in a footwell. And I'm like, that's Big Ryan's car. So I tried the door, and his passenger side door opened. So I was like, Willie, I says, Willie, open the driver's side door, let the handbrake off, and we'll push you out of the way so that I can get my car out. Right? So Willie opens the door. Obviously, he's like, I can't turn the wheel too much because the steering lock will go on. So he lets the handbrake off the ass Corsa. I'm pushed. I've got the door open, the passenger door, pushing it. He's got the driver's side door, pushing it. We're pushing it along. The 2 are killing ourselves laughing. And we push it out into the middle of the car park. Leave it right in the middle of the car park. And the 2 could hardly push it for laughing. The next minute, all he hears, what the fucking on? It wasn't Ryan McWilliams' car, it was the Irvine Meadow assistant manager's car that we were pushing. The guy thought we were trying to steal his car. But we're just like that. Sorry, mate. Jumped in my car and away we went. So that was another one for unreal. Outstanding. And that's what I'm saying. Character, when you talk about character in a team, we had guys playing out a position that as well, because we were limited in our numbers, but obviously you've got to put a team together and play. And I think I played most of that season at centre mid, and I'll be honest, see if had it not been for Gus Galt playing, Gus Galt was coming to the end of his career at this point, but see if it hadn't been for Gus Galt being in beside me at times in the middle of the park, I'd never played in centre midfield. But he was keeping me right and using his experience.
Very experienced player, Gus. Very good player to have around.
And at times I was probably his legs at times, but I learned so much just off that period of playing in the middle of the park with Gus, and I'm still good pals with Gus. I still speak to him and catch up with him when I can. But he helped me.
At the time, Gus would have been 37 years old as well, and he was still playing into his early 40s. There's a lot of players who struggle to play much beyond their 30s. Gus was a remarkable. Gus was certainly a good player to have at the club at the time. And obviously we had that playoff. Talk us through the playoffs. You might not remember that playoff, Murray, but that was the story that needs to be relived.
Unbelievable. So,
what came first? The Ayrshire Cup or the playoff final?
The Ayrshire Cup final. The Ayrshire Cup final was on the Friday night, and then the playoff was the Monday and the Wednesday. On the Friday night, we beat Cumnock 3-0. Brilliant. Again, I think Cumnock thought that they would just turn up and turn us over, and we beat them very comfortably, 3-0. Obviously, we knew that we had a playoff on the Monday and the Wednesday, so the celebrations couldn't go on quite as long as we wanted them. We went back to Sharps on the Friday night and called it a night quite early because we knew we had the playoffs on the Monday.
You go on the playoff game, and how do you describe a game like that? Like,
obviously
it's the two legs. It's
I know. So the first game up there, 3 each, was nothing between the teams. It was just totally to and fro, and it was physical. Nobody was really on top. It was a bit. I wouldn't say it was cagey, but it was like you couldn't really separate the two teams. There was nothing really separating. 3 each, obviously. Goals galore, but going into the second leg, you probably couldn't have worked out who was going to win it. It was literally hanging on a knife edge, and then the only the bonus for us was that it was home for us for the second leg on the turf, and what in the build up there, I actually hired a minibus. I says to the boys, like, what I'll do is I'll hire a minibus, and I don't drink, right? I've never drank in my life, so I was like, what I'll do is I'll hire a minibus, and I'll pick all the guys from Inverclyde up and anybody else that wanted to come, and I'll drive the minibus down. And obviously, if we win, we're out for the night, and then I'll drive a minibus and everybody's home. And so that's what we done. I hired a minibus and I went and picked all the boys up, and some of them, their brothers would come and uncles, and so drove down to Largs, and then we couldn't get after a worse start. Did Paul, did we go 3-0 down, or was it 2-1?
For context to listeners, we were playing Ashfield to get promoted to the west of the then Premier Division. Ashfield were third bottom of the Premier, and we were third top of the first division. We drew 3 each as in Ashfield, as in Glasgow. And yes, we went 3-0 down after 20 minutes. 3-0
right.
down.
So we're 3-0 after 20 minutes in the game. We were 3-0 down, Murray. It was like
in front of 1,300 people, roughly.
That's right. It was great crowd at Barfield. So 20 minutes into the game, we're 3-0 down, and you're thinking, right, the wheels have come off because we've went through these games. Obviously, has this been too much to ask? You're on a park thinking, was this too much of an ask for us to go and play a quarter semi and then a final, then the first leg, and is this it? Is it just, it was too tired? But then Eddie Walton scored to make it 3-1, so it was 3-1 at half time. So once we got that goal, I was like, we've got a chance here, because I knew they conceded 3 goals against us at when we played them at their place, and I was like, they can be got at like 100%. So we went in at half time, and all the chat at half time was all positive. It was like, we need to get the next goal. If we score the next goal, we're right back in it. We'll see what they're made of. And then went out, started the second half, went out, and Murray scored an absolute worldie.
Yep.
And then Barry Stanton scored one just after that.
Nicky Little.
Nicky Little, so it was. Nicky Little scored a header. And then, obviously, Barry Stanton had scored to make it 4-3. And, Paul, you'll know, obviously, that when you're playing, it's hard to take in what your atmosphere's like when you're concentrating and playing. But what a game, eh?
I think we had spotted, this is to take nothing away from the experience they had, I think we had spotted, well, they were vulnerable at the back, and their keeper, well, a solid keeper, McLennan, was
that's right,
a little vulnerable with crosses. And
definitely.
I think we very much took advantage of that.
Took advantage of it. But obviously, we went 4-3 up, and then in the last, it was like 90 plus 2 minutes. 92 minutes. They break down the kind of right-hand side of our box, and the boy tries to play a ball across it, and Eddie Walton slides in to try and block it, and it's hit his hand, and they get a penalty in 90 plus 2 minutes. So the boy gets a penalty and scores it. Game finishes 4 each.
Stephen Connick still got a hand to it, and he scored it.
That's right. So 4 each after normal time, and the game just goes straight to penalties. And this is Stephen Connick's last game as well. So he's retiring after this game. And we go in a penalty shootout, and we beat him the penalty shootout, and Stephen Connick saves the penalty to basically win his promotion. And it was unbelievable. My father-in-law was at that game, and he says it's the best £6 he ever spent. He says when he was walking out the door, he was expecting to ask them for more money on the way out.
I've got Stevie Connick posters up my wall, just dreaming of ending my career like that with Largs.
Stephen's last save, if you remember it, it was 2 saves Stephen made.
Right.
I was actually quite nervous because you obviously came to take the first penalty, and it was well taken as ever. But the keeper actually did get a slight hand to it, but he still scored. And Ian and I know Stephen saved the third penalty.
That's
for them, and then the fifth penalty, it was Andrew Brand came up to take it. Good player. Bounced. Stephen put his hand out, bounced off the side of his hand, off the crossbar.
It was kind of brilliant, unbelievable.
The one thing that always annoyed me about that game, though, was that I no longer sadly have the full footage, as I accidentally saved over my hard drive a couple of years ago.
Right.
Well, I'd say that the next season, it's a relegation season. We've become a bit of a yo-yo club at this point. Is there just anything for that season that you think was it a bit too much too early for the team, or
Kilbirnie laid side Scottish Cup?
That's right. Fond memory. We knocked him out that second round. Third round. Aye.
A game I also missed as I was in Berlin for my birthday.
That was a good game. That was one of the highlights of that season.
And what happened after the game? Remind us all.
They put in an appeal to say that our goalkeeper at the time, Grant Weir, hadn't been registered to play in that game. So there was they kicked up a fuss and went to SGIFA to try and get a game, I don't know, scrubbed and get them into the next round and basically get us kicked out. But they failed, and we went on.
Do you know what really happened? It wasn't that he wasn't registered for us. It was that he hadn't been registered for Salkits 2 seasons before, and we hadn't declared that.
Oh, right, okay.
Which technically is the same thing, but it's tenuous. But but we did, however, win our award. When a lot of people expected us to lose that, that, but we won, and we then exited in the next round.
That's right. I'm pretty sure I scored 2 penalties in that game. We'd get 2 penalties, and the second one I remember. Their goalkeeper gets sent off. Obviously, a foul. He gets sent off, and it was the longest. See them make their substitute, put another goalkeeper on. Obviously, it was mind games. You know what I mean? But I'm standing there with a ball ready to take a penalty, and they must took 5-6 minutes to get a goalkeeper on. So obviously, you're standing there, and you're like, right, hurry up. And but thankfully, I scored it, and we won a game 2-1. So aye.
That was definitely quite a difficult season because we got relegated. I think it'd be quite. The following season was also, there was a lot of change that season, but that was also quite a remarkable 2014-15 when I'll let Murray explain a little bit about that was the season that Arnie came to the club with Brian Slavin. If you have a lot of do you have any particular memories from 2014-15, which was by all accounts quite a difficult season for the club?
It didn't. It was. There was things going on in the dressing room that wasn't great. As a distraction, and obviously we weren't doing great as well in the park. So, you could do with it. It's hard enough trying to get wins. Never mind stuff going on in the dressing room with, like, obviously stuff going on between players and the manager, and a lot of stuff went on that I didn't agree with, and it should have been sorted out better than it was. And it's just one of them things. It was disappointing. It was a hard season, and ultimately it was a club that suffered, just because of what was going on.
It was. I just recall the lowest point. Well, you might remember Greenock. I didn't, for what reasons I missed large parts of that season. We had a game. We lost 4-1 at home to Greenock. Greenock were a good side, but this was at home, and we lost 4-1.
Right. Yep.
And we also went to Kilsyth. We had 14 players there.
That's
2
right.
of them were goalkeepers. That was that was club. Every club goes through almost every club in the world will go through a difficult period like that. I mean, look at a few clubs in Scotland right now. But I'd say that was a particularly difficult time for the club. But thankfully, we've came out stronger.
Came out stronger, definitely.
What kind of difference did it make when Arnie and Brian came in? Was that a bit of a turning point in the season, as you say? Or?
Well, playing in it, I remember. I was like playing right mid, left mid, centre mid, up front. Like, it was just, I didn't really have a set position in the team. I was just kind of filling in all over the place, just wherever I was needed. And I kind of lost a wee bit. I didn't really know what position I played anymore. Do you know that way? You kind of push the pillar to post, and you're playing different positions. And I never ever complained about it. I was just happy to be playing and enjoying my football and doing the best I could do in whatever position I was asked to play in. But when Arnie and Brian come in, I remember when they got a job, and it was confirmed that they had got a job as joint managers. I was in a petrol station in Greenock, and Paul Coyle, who used to play it, I played with at Port and at Largs, was at a pump next to me, and he says, "I hear now we'd played against that Auchinleck team a couple of times, and as I say, they're great players, strong team, and Brian Slade was at that point was one of the most successful Auchinleck captains ever, and that he had a reputation as a player has been tough, and it wasn't good to play against, put it that way. But Paul Coyle says to me, "I hear Brian Slavin and Stuart Davidson's get a job," and I was like, "I know." He says, "Good luck with that one." And I was like, "Right, okay." Just because his reputation as a player, people were like, he's going to be hard hitting and he's going to be demanding and blah blah. But I actually look forward to it. See, when I heard that it was those two coming in, because I'm like, that's good, because they'll push us and they'll get the best out of us. And if there's guys there that don't want to push themselves and be part of that, then they'll go. And I thought I looked at it as a positive.
That's what happened with Slavin when he went down to Salkits. I watched a lot with my Salkits, my papa, that season that he was down there, and I think it was basically just he came in straight for Talbot to a team that's in the Ayrshire District League, the one greater in that, and the demands and the standards obviously just got too much for some folk, and it's either one way or another. And he's obviously made a lot more folk unhappy at Salkits than he was at Largs, where the standards are a wee bit higher. And well, it's probably for the best for Largs that he's ended up going elsewhere.
Well, I think when somebody comes in, it's about mentality, right? I think when people like that come in, because see, Arnie and Brian and Slavin are of the exact same mentality. Like, they've got that same desire, that same will to win. And it was brilliant. And I think you've got to get players to buy into that. But the younger guys will follow suit. See, the younger guys in a squad, you'll tend to find that they'll follow suit. But you need the older, more experienced guys. If they start buying into it, the younger guys will just follow suit. So the older guys in the team at that time were buying into it. So the younger guys just followed on. And it was brilliant. And it didn't just happen overnight. I remember speaking to Arnie about this, and I was like, I remember when you come in and that was a turning point. And he's like, well, not really. He says, because it took us a couple of games to find our feet and work things out. And then once we started to get momentum going, we were winning games. I can't remember what we won. What was it? How many games did we win in a row to end that season to stay up, Paul? Can you remember?
Let me just check. I know we about at least 4, probably more. But let me just check.
Aye. But
definitely went on a major run because...
Aye. We carried into the next season as well, didn't we? Because
We won
managed to
5. I mean 4.
5.
One of which was against league winners Pollock at Pollock.
So we knew we had to win games to stay up basically, and we dragged ourselves through the tail end of that season, kept ourselves up. We call it a great escape. See that season, that's the season of a great escape, because we were down. Do you know what I mean? There was no way we were coming back, and then we put us run together, and then obviously built on that going into next season, which was Brian and Arnie's first full season.
Again, just for context for viewers, Arnie and Brian, this was the first division we just stayed up in. Obviously, the first division, which Brian and Arnie, Brian Slavin and Stuart Arnie Davidson came in the beginning of January. They replaced Sandy McLean and Danny and Colin Lindsay, who'd been in charge for just under 2 years. So it's kind of the beginning of the modern Largs Thistle management team.
That's right, yeah.
Because then the following year, like you said, you kept on the good form, you get promoted again. Once you've been promoted so many times, ever wear off on you, Kev?
Never, because the pain of relegation still sits there, and you know that it could be just around the corner.
We'll get on to next season in a minute, because that happens again.
I know, but no, it was that season was brilliant, because obviously the momentum that we had finished the season prior, we carried into the following season, and I remember at the start of that season, I think we played the first 6 games and we hadn't lost a game, and neither had Clydebank. The first 5 games we hadn't lost and Clydebank hadn't lost, and we were playing each other in the 6th game. And Brian Slavin was playing. He was like doing the player manager bit, which it was brilliant. Like the season before, he played when he came in, he played a few games and he made such a difference. Just organisation, experience, and he was a good player. But he was playing at centre half and right back. And I actually remember the season the Great Escape season I'm talking about. We played Irvin Vicks down there, and we eventually drew 1 each with him. But Ross Lindy gets sent off, and Brian Slavin ended up getting in goal, and he nearly saved a penalty to make it 1 each. Do you know what I mean? This is the kind of guy you're dealing with. Like nothing's too much for him. I mean, there's no end to what he's going to do to try. But I remember we played Clydebank and we battered them at Barfields, and Brian Slavin and Nicky Little went in for a tackle, and Nicky went in high, right? But Brian went in higher, and he kind of caught Nicky, and there was a big uproar from Clydebank fans, obviously, horrible tackle for Slavin, and shouting and bawling and getting him abuse. And he was dead folk. Like, Brian's intense. See, when he's going to play a game, he gets in his own right, and it's good to see. And there's no getting him out of that zone once he's in it. So he went in. Him and Nicky went in and clashed. 2 of them went in high. Brian went in higher. And Nicky took a sore one. So obviously Clydebank fans kind of go off in one, and a couple of Clydebank players are over in Brian's face, shouting and bawling. And Joel Casabandi, who eventually played with Largs. So Brian's standing, just watching the game's going on up the other side of the park, and Brian's just focused on what's happening up the other side of the park. We're attacking, and Joel Casabandi's over in the side of Brian's face saying, "That was a horrible tackle, you're out of order, blah, blah." And Brian never even gave him eye contact and just says to him, "Up, you're next." And I have never seen a guy crumble so much in my life. Joe was their top goal scorer, and he was like their top man. And Brian just pointed at him, didn't even look in his direction, just says, "You're next." And Joe, it totally ruined them for the rest of the game. And even when we played them away that season, it was written out of Joe that Brian had him rattled. Do you know what I mean? So guys like that, you need guys like that in your team. Do you know what I mean? That's what it's about.
So what was the reaction like when he leaves early the next season?
Well, obviously, we had a great season that season. We went on. That's probably, obviously we get promoted, right? And we had something like we finished the season, and there was Cumnock had 6 games left to play in their season, and they hadn't beat us in the league that year. And they had 6 games to play, and if they won their 6 games, they would have went up as champions. We knew we were promoted, but they would have went up as champions. But we deserved to be champions that year, just with how we played. And obviously we beat Cumnock. We drew with them once and beat them at our place. But you know what it's like sometimes at the end of a season, other teams who have got nothing to play for struggle to put teams together for midweek games and stuff, but Cumnock still had things to play for. So their guys were turning up and playing Monday, Wednesday, Saturday to get their games finished. And they ended up getting the points that they needed to win a league. So as much as it was good to get promoted, it was disappointing that we never got a medal for it, because we definitely deserved a medal that year. So promotion was good, but I wanted it to be better.
Have you ever got a winner's medal at a Largs?
Not for leagues. I didn't. I think I get 3 promotions, but I don't think I didn't get a league winners medal. Just the Ayrshire Cup, but obviously I got a league winners medal at Kilburnie. See, looking back, I've not really looked back at my career, right? Like, since I stopped playing, but see, when I look back on it now, I've been quite lucky because I've played in 2 West of Scotland Cup finals, won one, lost one, won a league title with Kilburnie, 3 promotions with Largs, an Ayrshire Cup with Largs. I played in 2 Ayrshire Cup finals as well, won one, lost one, and I played in a Scottish Cup final. So when you look back on it, it's pretty decent going for a junior career. You get guys that get through a junior career and never play in a final, and I've played in, I don't know, what's that, 5 finals or something, and won a league, so it's not too bad.
Everyone here at Murray's Mates would once again like to say thank you to Sean and his team at GPD Mortgage Solutions for sponsoring this week's episode of Murray's Mates. Are you looking for your dream home in 2021? Take the stress out of applying for a mortgage by visiting GPD Mortgage Solutions. Take out a mortgage or insurance policy with GPD Mortgage Solutions and you will receive a free will. Plus, tell them you heard this advert on Murray's Mates and they will make a £50 donation to Largs Thistle. Find them at Facebook at www.facebook.com/GPD Mortgage Solutions or visit www.gpdmortgagesolutions.co.uk. That's www.gpdmortgagesolutions.co.uk.
Obviously, the following season was one of change because Brian stood down. We were unfortunately relegated despite a decent second half of the season. Arnie came in as manager, obviously previously joint manager with Brian.
That's right.
And you became his assistant for a period in the season as well.
That's right.
It was quite a busy season for you because you were coaching and playing, and it also got the impression it may have been quite difficult as well for you.
Oh, I struggled that season, to be honest, Paul, because see the game before, I'm still quite pally with Brian. I still speak to him, and I was actually in hospital. Right, I had picked up a virus and ended up in hospital because of it. And on the Friday night, Brian came up to he was working in Glasgow at the time, and he'd come up to the hospital on the Friday night, and he basically says to me, "Listen, tomorrow I think we were playing away to Troon." He says, "Tomorrow's going to be my last game. I'm leaving," and I was like, right. He says, obviously I've not said to any of the boys, but my mind's made up. It's too much. I just feel as if Brian doesn't do it in half measures. The same as Arnie, like everything's 100%, and he throws himself into everything, as Arnie does as well. And see, when people aren't putting in the effort or not showing that commitment, he struggles to deal with it. And I'm a bit the same. I struggle with that as well. When you put in so much to something and you're committed to something, and you're looking about and there's maybe guys on a team that aren't as committed as you or not putting in the same effort as you, it's hard to take. And especially when it's a club that you care about and a club that you've been there for a long time. So anyway, Brian had told me he was leaving, and he did on a Saturday against Troon. And I got out of hospital, and Arnie had contacted me to say, obviously, you'll be out for a few weeks recovering for your illness, but I would like you to help me out with the assistant manager thing. And my instant initial reaction was not a chance. I think I was 31 at this time, and I was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I still want to concentrate on playing. I'm only 31, blah, blah. So Arnie says, look, meet me somewhere. And and we'll grab a coffee and we'll sit and talk about it. He says, you can tell me your concerns and I'll tell you why I think you should get a bash. So I went and I met him and I told him all the reasons why I didn't want to do it. And Arnie had told me all the reasons why he wanted me to do it. And I thought, do you know what? I'll get a bash. And it's one of the biggest mistakes I've ever made, to be honest. I struggled with it because I was still wanting to play. And the more I'd done the assistant part, I felt as if I was getting up my playing side. And I wasn't ready to do that. And it was grinding away at me. And I struggled to deal at the time with some of the characters we had in the team, because there was guys in who didn't care, and were just turning up, and sometimes not turning up, and not giving their best, and I struggled to deal with it. And come the end of the season, obviously we get relegated, and in my head I'm thinking maybe I need a change, maybe I've went stale, maybe I've been here too long. And also in my head I was thinking, how do you go from being the assistant manager to go back to playing? Like, I mean, the next stage for me at Largs was probably getting in and working in the pie stall. I'd been there that long, I'd done that many jobs, you know what I mean? I was like, they're going to throw me in here and I'm going to be getting in at half time and serving Bovril rather than doing a team talk. So I didn't really know. It's hard I couldn't see myself going from a player to a player assistant to going back to just being a player. It kind of, I struggled to deal with it in my head, and I was thinking maybe I just need a change, maybe I need to get away. And at the end of that season, probably the biggest regret was leaving Largs for that short spell that I left. 2017, the start of 2017-18, I'd had a bit of interest for another couple of clubs to go elsewhere, and I had said to Arnie that I had explained to him I felt as if my time was done at Largs and I needed a new challenge. And obviously I took on the assistant thing, and I really didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy that side of it, because I felt, as I say, the longer I done it, the more I felt as if I was falling away for the playing side. And I was only 31, and I felt as if I still had a bit to offer as a player. So I ended up speaking to Sandy, who's the manager at Ardrossan, and they had a great setup. Obviously it was a grass park, and I was thinking maybe getting back on the grass, I wouldn't pick up as many wee niggling injuries. And basically I kind of talked myself out of leaving Largs, and I had went to Ardrossan, and when I phoned Arnie to tell him that I wasn't going to re-sign with Largs, it was raging. Like, it was and me and Arnie's got a good relationship, but it was raging with me. And I come off the phone and I was like, right, okay, that's like the hard bit done. But it never ever felt right. It just, I made a mistake, and very early on going to Ardrossan, I knew I made a mistake, and we actually had to play against Largs at the start of the season in a group section, and surreal, like turning up at Largs, getting in the away dressing room, getting ready in there, going out, playing again, like lining up on the other side of the park for the guys who I had played with a season before, and it was horrible. I didn't enjoy it. And I think at Ardrossan, we'd on a red strip, and as soon as we kicked off, the teams kind of took shape, and I was getting marked by Nicky Jimison and Craig Little, and Big Nicky says to me, Kev, you don't suit red, you look better in yellow and black, do you know what I mean? I was like, and I knew fine well I did. But what was even more weird at that game was Murray scored a header against us. What's up? You know what I mean? I've never seen Murray header a ball properly since I've known him, and then he scores a header against me. So just when I thought my night couldn't get any more strange, Murray scored a header, and that just summed it up for me.
No, I was just going to say, I was going to ask you what brought you back to Largs, but I've got here in my notes, it was a new up-and-coming young goalkeeper that signed for the first time, and you just thought, I need to see this more nice.
Well, listen, I had heard a lot of rave reviews, and I thought I need to go and see what this guy's made of. And I'm not going to lie, it played a massive part in me coming back when I heard that young Grayston was between his sticks.
Maybe I got signed at that time, to be fair.
That was a strange one, because I knew I had made a mistake, right, by leaving early on, really early on. So see, as I was getting paid by Ardrossan, I didn't even open the envelopes, and I kept the money and I put it in my drawer in the house, unopened, right, my wage. And I went and played in a charity game for Ross Lundy's charity for his wee boy, CDH, and I played in that game, and obviously Arnie and stuff were there, and how you settling in at Ardrossan, I was like, I'm not really like, and they knew that I knew that I had made a mistake, so I worked at Greenock with the RDS at Greenock Fire Station at the time. In Sandy's office, Sandy works for Scottish Fire and Rescue. He was doing fire safety at the time, and his office was in Greenock Fire Station, and obviously he was my manager at football. So I left the house. I decided I need to do something about this. I can't just go on being unhappy, going there knowing I've made a mistake. So I went in to the fire station. I went into Sandy's office. He's like, Kevin, how's it going? I was like, listen, Sandy, I need to go. Like, I've made a mistake here coming to Ardrossan, and I know it puts you in a horrible position. The fact that you've brought me in, and he made me a captain at Ardrossan as well. I says, but I've just made a mistake by leaving Largs, and I'm going to leave Ardrossan. And he's like bombshell. Do you know what I mean? This was only 3 months into the season, and he's like, right, we'll see what we can do. Leave it with me. And I was like, right, okay. And I was like, but he says, where are you going to go? What are you going to do? He says, because Ardrossan will probably just put you on a transfer list. And I was like, well, listen, I'm not going to go and play with any other junior team. I says, if I'm going to go anywhere, I'm going to go to Largs, and if I'm not going to go to Largs, then I'm not going to play. And he was like, right, okay. He says, right, let me speak to the club and see what we can get sorted. So he went back to Ardrossan, and there was a bit of to and froing, and basically they were going to ask for a fee for me, and which I thought was unreasonable, right? But basically, what in the end up, long story short, to get back to Largs, I basically handed back my wages that they'd paid me for 3 months, so that they would let me go, so that I could go back to Largs and sign. So that's the story.
And
were you at Winton at the same time as they signed all the Cardis brothers, or was that year before?
Year before.
Because I was playing with kind of Sulkets at the time, and I remember they got a bit of slaughtering amongst me and one of my mates. I was at Sulkets, he was at Ardea.
Right.
Spent a lot of money bringing players in. Rumour has it, allegedly, I shouldn't need to say allegedly, they spent a lot of money on players coming in. They went unbeaten to February, and then they collapsed.
That's right, aye.
And it was so weird, because I mean, there wasn't that league was going downhill at that point. I mean, there wasn't that many great teams in it, and
aye,
to watch that happen to them as a Celtic's perspective, it was quite funny, if I'm honest. But
definitely. No, it was. Don't get me wrong. They had a decent. Their setup was great, but it just wasn't. It just wasn't a lot.
And we picked a great season to come back, because, yeah, again, another promotion, and it was another one of those. We just put our run together at the end of the season. I mean, we won either 1-0, 2-0, because we didn't score a barrel load that season. It was literally just built on that back four of Laurie, Nicky, Craigie, and Mario. On the other occasion, Big Al played, and that's how we ended up getting promoted that season, because there wasn't anything. Only lifting any trees, but we're doing the job.
No, I don't.
And then again, we got to an Ayrshire Cup final. It was a great run, but I think we were unlucky to get beat. I don't think we deserved to get beat in that final, but
no, definitely. Obviously, you were there. I was lucky enough to share a bench with you that day. So memories.
Coming occurrence that season, to be fair.
But no, it was obviously getting to a cup final and promotion was good. Disappointing not to get into a cup final, but there was bigger and better things in the horizon the following season.
Because the first bits in my notes I've got for the following season are literally just like a fine wine, Kev.
Like a fine wine. That's that, mate.
I just get you. Paul's gave me a stat: 17 and 39 games in terms of goals. That doesn't take into account assists as well. She actually played a little bit off the wing, probably more.
I started off kind of through the middle, and then I moved. I would play either. We played three up top, didn't we? So I played either wide left or wide right. But that was probably my best season at Largs. But looking back, when I look back over my time that I spent there, that was probably the best team that we had. Like, consistent. Like, every week we had a kind of. The whole squad was just solid. And if you weren't performing, there was somebody on your shoulder ready to take your place. And that, I don't know, it seems to kind of spur me on when you know there's somebody breathing down your neck for a space, and I always seem to kind of play a bit better under a bit of pressure. Personally, it was my most enjoyable season probably in my whole junior career, and getting to a Scottish Cup final was brilliant. But when you look at some of the boys that played in that team, it was, I mean, even in training, Murray, how the tempo that we used to train at and the quality of the training was brilliant, wasn't it?
Standards unbelievable, because I mean, as you've seen, in terms of junior football, I have literally just trained for the last few years, but it's just the coming on when you're playing with players like, I mean, I had yourself, Addy, Ryan McKee, Ben Black, Joe Knowles was there for a wee bit.
Aye.
That's the kind of people you're training with. If you're doing specific work with the strikers, that's what you've got shooting into every session. When you go into the five-a-side games or the kind of
small-sided
goals, the standards unreal. I mean,
I know.
would run the ground for the session and then have a go at you for in the game at the end.
I know. But do you know, that standard just became a norm in that team at that time, in training. And I remember seeing Brian and Arnie come in at first. They stood in the changing room and they introduced themselves, and they were like, this is what we expect. And right for the off, they were like, we're going to train the way we play. I don't want anybody pulling out of tackles in training. I want you going as you would in a game, tempo, pressing, tackling, everything. And they got it. And that's the way training just continued. And it stands you in good stead, 100% getting into a game this Saturday. But I loved it, and it brought out the best in people as well, didn't it? You started to see the kind of, obviously when you've got good players running about you as well, they kind of spur you on to play better, and we all kind of made each other better players, and I think that's something that I've noticed in football as well. It's not the coach will maybe give you pointers, but it's the players that you train with that make you better players. If you've got a better standard in training, you're going to up your game. You're going to get better. I mean, I look at Craig Forbes when he came in at first to train with us. It was like, what is going on here? The tempo, and obviously he was only a young boy, and he's like, the tempo here's frightening. But see, the second season that he came in and trained with us, he was flying. Like, you could see him progressing technically, and obviously he's fit as well. But technically, he come on leaps and bounds, and he just thrives in that stuff. Do you know what I mean? He loves it. But no, it was good. It was really enjoyable.
Because it's even, you look at things like, you see everyone who kind of brought everyone on, and everything started to click because, like, the season before, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head, looking at it, I think we're 4th or 5th lowest scorers, even though we finished second or third in the league and got promoted. And the next year we turned over Meda 7-0.
That's right.
So, I mean, there was 4 or 5 games where we've scored 5+ goals.
We scored 9 against Arbroath.
That's right.
Arbroath weren't a very good team, but it's still 9 goals. Which
I know.
was our biggest win since 1984.
Brilliant start.
You were actually top scorer for most of the season until Scott usurped you near the end of the season. It was
right.
And obviously Scott's been top scorer every season he's been here. You almost caused an upset.
I know, upset for the books, I know. But no, it's. I mean, I always knew that if you're giving service or you're playing the right position or you're playing a decent team, if you get chances, you're going to score more than your fair share. And that's the way it was. Even obviously playing wide right, I only looked at the players we had and looked at a system. Sometimes you get managers that are stuck to a set system and like, we're not going to move this. This is my formation. This is style I play. But I only looked at the squad of players he had and thought, do you know what? We've got good attacking options. We're going to go 3 up, and it worked a treat. And I got it spot on.
I'll move on to the Scottish Cup in a minute. There's just one thing I want to ask you about before we move on to that. How much of a difference do you think Mark Millar made to the squad?
Mark's a quality player. Like that. There's no denying that. And the reason that move came about was Mark was in a restaurant with his wife having lunch, and I says to him, Mark, what's happening with football? And obviously he's from Greenock or Inverclyde, and I says, what's happening with football? And he's like, I'm kind of speaking to this team, speaking to that team. He says, I'm actually going down to speak to Troon on Saturday. And I says, would you be interested in getting into juniors? And he says, I wouldn't rule it out. Obviously, my work and stuff, I need to be available for work. But if something suits me, then I'd definitely speak to him. And I said, speak to somebody. And I says, listen, do you mind if I pass your number on to our manager? And he's like, no, that's fine. He said, I'm going to speak to Troon on Saturday. So if you want to ask him to give us a phone, so I'll get in contact. And that's how the move for Mark came about. And Mark had went down to Troon, and he says they spoke and things went well, but he says when he came to Largs, he just got a feeling that, obviously there was a couple of faces that he knew, but he says he just got a feeling that that's the move he wanted to do. And Mark was brilliant. Like, there's no getting away from his quality. And the thing for me is, he always seemed to be in the right position. See when we were attacking, and maybe a cross goes into a box and a team clear it always seemed to drop at Mark, and he just recycled it and kept the pressure on. Like, either the ball would drop at him, he'd move it along, get it out the other side, and then we'd attack for the other side. And it just kept us always on the front foot. And just his experience and his knowledge of the game and his positioning, his positional sense, and top of his quality, like, he can shoot, he can pass, scored goals. He made a massive difference. And sometimes that's all it needs is, you might have a good nucleus of a team, but if you get one guy with that bit of quality, it can just take you on that extra level. And I think that's what he done for us that year.
I think that's another one. I thought he brought training on again, another level. He was one of those ones. Sometimes I'd be cussing him because he'd have a go at me, but he'd literally come and say to you eventually at the end of the session or something like, I'm not trying to have a go, I'm just meaning, calm it down, big man, play. He walks you through everything, and I think I benefited a lot for that personally, and having someone like that about the squad.
No, it helps, it definitely.
If we're going on and we're talking about, probably, is it fair to say probably the biggest game of your career, Scottish Cup final?
Aye, it was definitely disappointing. The result. But I was disappointed, obviously, that I didn't start that game as well. But I could see in the run up to the game, I could see Arnie's thinking, right. I could see what he's got to think his best way that he can beat Auchinleck, and knew that we had pace in wide areas and they maybe lacked pace in wide areas, and that's why he's went with two, like Ryan McKee on one side and Ben Black on the other side. But the fact that they scored a goal early on just allowed them to do what they do. Just they sat in, soaked up the pressure, and then hit us in the counter for a second. But listen, it was a great day. Every party, it was amazing. But I wish looking back on it, I wish I could have contributed a bit more. But it's just one of them things. I don't hold any grudges or anything. It's just a manager. It's a tough job. Obviously, I done the assistant bit for a wee while, and I don't grudge a manager or assistant. And chances are I'll probably never get into that side yet because of the experience I had at that time doing that. But I don't grudge a manager having to pick a team. There's only 11 guys that can play. You've got a certain way you want to play, and you've got to pick the guys that suit that style. And unfortunately, it just didn't come off for us that day. But a great day for the club and the fans and the players. But I'd also been struggling with a wee knock that throughout that season, probably from about Christmas time on, I had a problem, like kind of my hip, my kind of groin area. I didn't know what it was, and I kept playing, and then got to a stage I was like taking painkillers, and then like the next day after games I was struggling, and just before the cup final I had went and seen the consultant, and I found out that I had a hernia and a torn tendon in my groin, so I knew I was going for an operation at the end of that season after the cup final. And obviously I knew I had another baby on the way as well, so that was the thing as well. I knew that was my last game for Largs. I knew it was going to be. So I was gutted as well at that. So that game meant a lot to me because it was a cup final, because I'd spent so much time at Largs, but also I knew it was going to be my last game for Largs as well. So it was a tough one, emotional.
I imagine I was nearly emotional on the way home, to be fair, but that was probably 2 days alcohol catching up with me and then else.
I still think the greatest achievement of your career was being voted by Largs fans into the Largs Thistle greatest 11 of the decade.
No, listen, that was that. I was delighted to hear that, and it's something that I really appreciate because you get through your career, and obviously your aim's never to be. You don't get through your career. You just want to be successful and do your best for that team. And obviously, I had a brilliant relationship with Largs and spent the majority of my career there and loved the club and loved everything about it. But then to be recognised after you've stopped playing, to be in that team of the decade it was nice. It was a nice touch, and I really appreciate it. Anybody that voted for me in that, I really appreciate a vote, and it means a lot.
When you're looking back at just getting at your time as a whole, is there anything you would ever change?
I wouldn't have left to go to Ardrossan, 100%. That's people talk about regrets, right? And I've not really got many regrets, to be honest. But I wish I would have had a better. I kind of took a bit more time and thought about what I was doing, and I would have never have left at that time. When I did, it was a mistake. But it's different if something happens and you can't affect it, you can't change it. But I could change it. I made at that time I thought I was making the right decision, but in hindsight, when I thought about it and as time went on, I realised it was the wrong decision. But I knew I had to change it, and that's why I changed it when I did. And luckily, I was able to get back to Largs, so it worked out good in the end.
Then looking back as well, if you had to put just a top moment, a crowning moment in your kind of career as a whole, what are you putting that as?
That's a hard one. It's kind of bang average, isn't it, really? Average at best. I don't know.
Between being in the bench with me that week where you won the Ayrshire Cup and
probably being the bench with you, right? But just beats that week, I'd say. Aye, banter over trophies any day.
Exactly. That's what I've got, mate. Some of have got an Ayrshire Cup runners up medal and they're drum, that's it. See my
Nice, mate.
And then have you got any memories, any more stories that are about moving meta managers' cars or anything like that? You feel you should be out there?
Listen, I could do a podcast about Willie McClure alone, right? But there's some right. I'll tell you one that Pat McElville was the manager, Danny Galt was the assistant, right? And Willie wasn't known for being a good trainer, right? Put it that way. So me and Willie had been injured, and I had picked up a knock on a Saturday, and I used to travel to games. Travelled into Largs with Willie. I used to go and pick him up and take him to training. So it was a winter's night. Me and Willie are injured, and the physio had texted to say I'm not going to be at training tonight. So I had phoned Willie just before I left the house, and I was like, "Right, Willie, listen, I'll pick you up past for training. Is that all right?" And he's like, "Listen, Kev," he says, "is there any point in me and you going down to training tonight?" He says, it's freezing cold, a winter's night. He says, and both of us are injured, and the physio's not going to be there. We're not going to get any treatment. And I was like, you've got a point. He says, do you think we could maybe phone Pat and say, me and we'll go to a gym up here? It means we're still getting a session done rather than travelling down there and doing nothing, blah, blah. And I was like, that's fine. And then there was a silence. And he's like, it would probably be better coming for you, Kev, wouldn't it? And I'm like, right, okay. So I phoned Pat. I was like, right, I'll phone Pat and I'll phone you back in a couple of minutes. So I phoned Pat. Pat, how you doing? It's Kevin. Kevin, how's it going? I says, listen, Pat, me and Willie have got an injury. Physio's not going to be there tonight. Would you rather me and Willie went to a gym and done a bit up here rather than travelling down and spending a wasted night at Largs? And Pat's like, that's a good shout, Kevin. He says, that's good. He says, you and Willie just go and get a session done at a gym and I'll see you on Wednesday night. And I was like, right, no bother. So I come off the phone. I phoned Willie and I was like, right, Willie, that's us. We've just to go to a gym. Willie's like, am I going to a gym? And I was like, no, Willie, listen, I've spoke to Pat. Like, we need to go to a gym. Like, we need to do something. Kev, I'm not going to a gym. He's like, I don't go to a gym. I've never been in a gym in my life. I wouldn't even know what to do in a gym. And I'm like, no, Willie, I've already said to Pat, like, you're going to go. Kev, I'm not going to a gym. I'm not going. He says, I'll tell you what, we'll meet you halfway. We'll go for a sauna. So me and Willie ended up going for a sauna, and that's Willie in a nutshell. He's brilliant.
Very remarkable character, Willie.
there was one as well. See when Graham Muir had just signed for Largs. We were playing in Ardrossan in the Ardagh Cup at the start of the season, and obviously done pre-season with us, and this is us starting to get into games. But Murray had turned up. I didn't see him before the game, right? His clothes that he had turned up with. Obviously, he was a trialist, so he'd just signed, so he didn't have a tracksuit and that yet. But after the game had finished, we were getting ready, and I kind of looked over at Murray, and he had on like his kind of ridiculous rascal boating shoe type things, right? With a pair of denim shorts and a tank top. And I remember looking at him, he looks like a young Freddie Mercury, right? Which he did at the time, because he had kind of prominent front teeth and that, and he had kind of dark, like kind of longish dark hair and that. And I'm like, that's a Freddie Mercury look-alike. So I'm just getting ready, and the next minute, here for the other side of the changing room is Willie. Sometimes I feel I want to break down and cry. Starts belting out this Freddie Mercury song, and the next minute, the whole changing room, dee-do-de-de, dee-do-de-de. Murray's face is scarlet. Willie was obviously thinking the same thing as me, that Murray was the image of Freddie Mercury, a young Freddie Mercury. So that was a welcome to Largs for Willie to Murray, slaughtering him in front of the whole team.
I don't think I'd ever done that in a tank top and a pair of shorts, to be fair.
Especially a new team, Murray. It's brave.
No. I'm about to play a game of basketball instead of a game of football.
It was terrible gear.
Have you really been playing football much since, or is it just a case of a kickabout here and there?
No, I've to be honest, I've not played much football. Obviously, I feel sorry for the guys that are involved in football now, because there's probably, you're talking, what's that, half a season last season, a tail end of a season out their career, and then a majority of this season out their career. So although I've not played, I've not missed much football, but I've not done much myself. I played a game with my pals who were kind of organising a Sunday league team, and they played a friendly just in between the two lockdowns there, and we won 9-0. But I didn't really enjoy it, if I'm being honest. But I don't know. I'll maybe play at some level, but I don't know at what. Probably not though.
Hang on another season, you got 35s. 35s.
I know I could probably play the 35s, but we'll wait and see. I'll never say never, but I do miss it. I miss the dressing room and all that kind of stuff, and the training. I miss training as well, but trying to motivate yourself to go out and train yourself is tough going, but it's got to be done. Talking about transformations, what about yours? You went away for a while at Largs, and then you turned up and you were like a new man. What happened there? What instigated that?
I don't know what would have happened. To be fair, what time was that?
You come back. I hadn't seen you in a couple of months, and you come back and you had lost a load of weight and you were looking lean, and I was like, Murray, what you been up to? And you're like, I just started doing a bit of training, and you were looking great. You looked brilliant.
I'm about it. I should like to point out that Kev was the only person to ever notice if I lost weight, and I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Should I walk over to Kev and I'm going to his showers just like Kev? But
it was good to see you guys. Thanks for your time as well. It was good to see you. And
in the interview, sometimes me, I just sit back there and let you speak. Great.
Too much to talk about. That's what happens when you talk to guys who are finished now. They've got so much to talk about.
I was saying, get more retired players on, mate. It's a lot easier.
Thank you for coming on, by the way,
Yep,
Kevin. I know it's been very busy.
No worries, guys. My pleasure. Good to speak to you.
Thank you, Murray.
All right. Take care, guys.
After. Pleasure.
See you soon.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Murray's Mates. I'm Paul Laing. Me and Murray will be back in a few weeks' time. For the meantime, please stay safe and come on, Thistle.